report tape, an analysis of the rebellion. I highly recommend you get that tape. That's a 4.5-hour analysis of the rebellion. I did it in Washington, D.C. I did a video version of the lecture here in Long Beach. It's on videotape for $40. Both of them are high-quality Copley work. The main thing about it is a discussion is about Cecil Murray within the dialogue. And even last week when we talked about the intelligence community, we talked about how the intelligence community used Cecil Murray to replace the Jesse Jackson figure who usually shows up to ventilate the people. And that Operation Cool Down was preconceived at least 30 days prior to the rebellion to put 2,000 to 5,000 black men in the streets to cool it down. And we have a project going on all over the country called Project Freeze Frame. Think about this. We're going to do it here in L.A. I got a whole garage full of papers, even though I have most of these same papers from Washington of your rebellion. We got Operation Freeze Frame. What it is around the country, we believe that if we take the names of all of the people who, when the stuff started, asked for the stuff to stop. This is a formula. Whoever went out and said, please no violence, we need their name, and we need their name computated. We need to know who it is will show up when the heat comes. Now, why would I, for someone who I claim I never liked, jump out and ask to relieve the pressure off of them? No, don't hurt them. In the Riot Report tape, you hear me talk about Francis Wells Welsing, who in Washington, D.C., went right on the radio, unannounced guest, to tell the people in Washington, no riot, no rebellion, no violence. And then she said, it's like I tell my children when they're on the school bus and they gotta use it, I tell them that you gotta learn how to hold it. So she got up and preached to no violence. And so all around the country, in every single city, there was a certain group of people. Some were cadres of ministers, some were newscasters, some were community leaders, some were just little old people on the street. On no matter what level, we need to know who will show up to help the white man. Because anyone who called an end to the violence are the people that we're going to have to deal with at another point in time. And when we announce that you end up freeze-framed in those situations, in the future, less people will volunteer for the position. This is room that we need. And we're going to get the room by acknowledging those who have this uncharacteristic behavior of choosing to assist the beast. All the beast wanted at any moment was to stop the violence. Let me talk with you. Let's reason this out. Come on TV. Let me give you a grant. Get in line. Just wait on. Hold them down, man. Give them a nigga police chief. Anything to hold it down. And they held it down. They held it down. And the other side of it was so that we keep acknowledging things. And if you read the story here, not only in the Riot Report that I talk about how they put this brother on every newspaper in the country, but I also talked about how that FBI informant Butler, who hang up under his ass, went on the front of every newspaper in the country, and Butler is the one put Geronimo Pratt in jail. Check. And he lived up in the church. And the word went out that he's in here they call him the incubator of the church. What that mean? He in the middle of the business. And it said the church grows $4 million a year in Sunday receipts. $4 million a year in Sunday receipts. Now, check. This is the 177th point in life of George Bush. See, we didn't know that until it come up. See, it didn't come up till afterwards. He was already in the fold. Got the FEMA money, the weed and seed money, getting all the money. ARCO money. There's a picture in here with my man Mark Whitlock. I know he a little deceptive. I already dealt with him, so I've been up in the church. Brother, some of the brothers been up in the church with me. It didn't go well. But surely we stood our ground and communicated we was with God. We didn't know who they was impersonating. And they knew who we were. They felt that they know. I know who they with. God, it sure is bad when they show up. Make it tough on the con man. But here's Mark Whitlock right here with the minister with his hand open with a white man in the room.
Oh, boy.
But what's interesting is the caption in the picture. It says, this is a meeting about economic development in the community. It says, from left, an executive who asked not to be identified. White man. White man in the picture, he don't want his name out. He in the room cutting a deal with some niggas.
Yeah.
But he don't want his name out. Check. Now all the other nigga names all in there. Mark Whitlock, Head of Fame, Gerald Collins of the Bank of Montreal, Peggy and Murray Hill. They got more plaques on his wall than he got paint. Now, they say minister only make $35,000. I was sitting up reading this with somebody. Said he only make 35. I said, they have bought the nigga the car. Next paragraph, we just bought him a new car. I said, plus they got Minister Appreciation Day. That's when he get that 50 to 100,000 cash. No, that ain't his salary. That's his bonus. You think he bringing in $4 million and he don't get no percentage? The 35 come from the AME, who pay all. The AME, the Methodists, the Baptists, they all pay their missionaries to hold down the real estate. That's real estate they standing on. That real estate belongs to the mothership. That's the AME mothership. Yeah. So the AME mothership pay all their missionaries, like the United Church of Christ pay their ministers. Methodists pay their ministers to hold the real estate for the religion. Okay, so anyway, when we come back to the intelligence community, we're going to come back to this subject since it's so prevalent where we standing now. Oh, Ed, Brother Ed, you looked at anything else in the article you think need to be relayed to the people?
No, not at this point.
All right, check. All right, so not at this point. Get them in. Is you gonna have it later, Ed? All right. All right. One other thing, as I was saying, when we talked the other night, we talked about the intelligence community. I have some copies of that tape up here. I highly recommend it for those of you all who are around. There's one or two things in that lecture that I really want to better have the people understand. One of the other things we talked about was who ends up in a file. We looked at some old files that the government had, and we found out that in one case they had a category 1, category 2, category 3, and category 4. And these were the categories that they fit the people in. And category 1 was all the national leaders. Category 2 was the sub or the second or third in command leaders. And category 3 was the rank and file. Category 4 was anybody who wasn't in categories 1, 2, and 3. And that was just to tell us that even though you don't understand how you may end up in a file, way the categories go down, everybody fit in the file some kind of way, even a child. So that fourth category, that all of the above type of thing is type of thing that we suffer from it. Then we talked a little bit about, it might still be left on here, we talked a little bit about a formula from a book on the military intelligence community. And this was a formula. Many of the books, if you start to analyze books that are actually written by the intelligence agencies or used in these schools in Washington, we got blacks in each state, and where you have Georgetown and George Washington and the Brookings Institute and a lot of the major think tank, college type of systems hubbing in one place around the White House and the State Department, the CIA. There's a lot of materials in the bookstores that service those people, and it's an upgrade level of material that is not normally found in your Dalton or your Crocs or your Crowns. This don't make it that far. It's not meant for everybody, but it is in these little local things. And when you analyze the information that they write to each other, it's a lot of charts, a lot of diagrams, a lot of formulas. It's not a lot of dialogue. Only certain segments of it contain dialogue. They computerize a lot of even how do they decide which informant do they believe when they got conflicting stories? They have formulas for these things. And we found in there that there was a formula that they were using in terms of intention plus capability equal threat. That someone may voice an intention to do harm to the government, and that they would make note of the intention. That the main goal of the intelligence officer, we were trying to take a look at the early warning people. And my goal to the audience was to try to have the audience understand that you're in a fight against another set of people. Now let's look into the other set of people and see just what positions they have and how they work. So as we're working against them, we better understand what formulas they're using so we know better how to beat them. And in this dialogue that we found out that an intelligence warning officer's primary immediate goal is to gather the intention. What is the intention? The intention. And then the intention is measured by, we use these flashes to indicate indicators that If you look into an article, I talk about articles in the paper. Now that I looked at different words that they're using, like intentions and indicators, I look in articles on the CIA and I find the word indication. Say, what intentions? I see these words. Even though they're simple English language words, I understand now more that they're actually words out of a formula, and that they do use indicators and indication and intentions, capabilities, threat. And so into that formula of what are the intentions were certain indicators. Coakley says he's going to go and take Miami, Florida. An indicator that my intention may be fulfilled is Coakley went to the airport and bought a ticket for Miami. That's an indicator. Doesn't mean, it doesn't say that I did it, but he's measuring intention, and he's measuring intention based on capability, where he bought the ticket. And so we're looking at the intelligence community and trying to give some understanding to what they're thinking about. We also talk about airlines tickets and other reservations. And sister, you need a seat? Oh, sister, you gotta have a chair somewhere now. You might be fine. And how's brother? Where brother at? Oh, they okay. And there's a chair right here too. All right. Well, they may want two chairs together, so we got
two over here.
Okay.
Three over here.
All right. Okay, so we were looking at their formula of an early warning officer. We also talked about, and I hate to repeat this for those of you all who were here, but it's just important, worth repeating. Yeah, right, it sure was good, Sister J. That stuff was good. I was eating that real late the other night. That was good. That was real good. The rice, they got that brown rice? That wild rice. Yeah, that was good stuff. Anyway, that's good stuff. I mean, I'd be hungry tonight. And so we be conscious of that the early warning officer, we made a point of saying that if the early warning officer, I mentioned being here at the Good Life and announcing that I was going to New York to start some stuff at the Diamond District.
That's right.
And that the early warning officer would have to sound an alarm, and if the indicators looked like it was about to happen, that they would have to go and respond. This is prior to. That they would actually have to go to New York, set up a way to counter it, or be on the scene themselves, or to do this or that. They would have to respond. And if the early warning officer gives 2-3 warnings and don't nothing happen, that he as an employee in the CIA or the Defense Department or military intelligence of the Army or naval intelligence, it's all in the community, that he wouldn't be too effective if he kept giving false warnings. So after you setting him up, it said the one thing that can mess up a warning officer's warning is deception. That if deception, if you deceived him, if you were only correct every other time, or every 4th time, or every 7th time, and he had to keep giving a warning that he has a tendency to get shell-shocked and to quit crying wolf, and now you got a chance to get past because he's too scared to push the button. Too scared to push the button because he done overplayed his hand in other situations. So we talked about that sometimes we have to consider that we set things up in a scenario to pull the other team off the position and come up with an actual pattern of unreliability. An actual pattern of unreliability. Every day I leave my house a different way. A pattern of unreliability. Now, if you set a pattern that's so easily perceivable by most when you leave, when you come back, what you do, what you like to eat when you go a certain place, so that they can pre you, then you have to understand that you become vulnerable to others who study your way.
That's right.
And so they study. They have an Office of Leadership Analysis. Now, if this brother here, he's from Nation of Yahweh, and they doing great in this area, and they got great people, then the CIA has a division called the Office of Leadership Analysis, where they just study the people who are the leaders. We already know they got the files.
That's right.
National, sub-national, rank and file, anybody else. Now we got another office that just studies the leaders, the ones that are, the ones that are emerging, and the ones they want. All go into one big pile, and they play probability scales off these piles. And we be conscious of that. They don't move a person. If they want to move somebody at the top, they don't move that person unless they got that second or third person in place. You don't knock somebody out to let anybody come in. That's how we noticed in the Harold Washington thing. Killing Harold Washington was one team. orchestrating the succession to him was a whole nother team. And one team made it and the other team didn't, and they wish they had kept him alive a little longer and give Team B a better chance to pull it off. But they didn't know Team B couldn't have. Jesse Jackson had Team B. They didn't know that he couldn't pull it off. There wasn't enough credibility in his history to compel the black people to pull it off with him. So Team A did kill him. They had to be first. But Team B fucked up, and they wish they had Harold alive again so they could have tried it all over because they blew it. You don't take one out unless you're putting one in. And we be up and into that. So we looked at the watch officer, and when we come back on Saturday, we'll be here Saturday, we want to talk more about the intelligence community and take you deeper up into these better viewpoints we have. One area that the CIA is expanding in the future on is in human intelligence. That technologically they cannot rationalize the use of an additional satellite, a computer dish, or whatever because the enemy is not as prevalent. Now they refocused. I will show you the latest CIA analysis of their own role has knocked out the Russian and put in the so-called third world, the so-called terrorists. And you know that's the black become the priority of the project. So we're going to look better at their goal towards increasing their human intelligence. Their program called HUMINT, H-U-M-I-N-T, is the acronym. We're going to talk about that because our goal would be to neutralize their ability to expand their ranks in our midst. And we can neutralize them by understanding a formula. They're locked into a formula. And remember, as times get tough, the white man only going to have his people hang with him so far. As times get tough, they only going to hang with him so far. Sister, we have a sister here who need a place to sit and a young man who's with her. Yes, brother, do you want to add something?
One out, one in. Gates out, Williams in.
And I think that'll be solidified by giving the mayor the authority to control Williams and replace the mayor.
Because Gates is no longer under the civil service commission.
Right, now that position is under... Right. So now that the black man would have control of the black man, you just get rid of the top black man, make him a white man. And then you can see him percolating that right now, right? And I don't know, brother. In politics, it's hard to win at that game. I think power, direct action, delivers a lot better than politics. And if you just look at this Republican convention thing, I watched Reagan last night, called Thomas Jefferson out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's their thing. It's that detachment from reality. There's a group of white people that they can excite. You see, here Pat Buchanan give a speech about some hypothetical soldiers taking over of a senior citizen home. And the day the people at the senior citizen home said Pat Buchanan lying, the soldiers didn't even show up. The senior citizens got on the roof and protected their damn self. And Pat Buchanan just made up a story. His ending story was about saving the guard who stood up for the senior citizens in L.A. But it didn't even happen. It was a phony story. I got the book. Now, ain't nothing wrong with having the book because the leaders got to read. Everybody got to read. How many of y'all got the book? This is the book we're talking about tonight. Y'all want to talk about the book? No, we can throw the book out.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we got to have a system for copying the book so everybody can get it. Maybe we start a little library here at the Good Life like we talked about before, and when we finish with a book, we'll put the book on a chain on the shelf and let it hang here, and people can read it while they eat. Check. And it'll be like trophy on the wall. Say, who we done kicked in there? Say, well, that ain't hanging right there on the wall. Right? So we just hang it, right? All right? So we need to do this here. And the interesting thing, I just have to tell you this, you know, as I made a point of writing a little note to myself to tell you is that in talking about the guy's book, I don't mean to frame his character. I don't want to put him down. Whatever he think he's doing, he need to keep doing it. Because whatever confusion he cause, as long as we up on it, we don't care what it stirs up, right? Because we will understand while the others remain in abyss. And that ain't so bad for us. And this white boy in this book talks about other white boys who, to me, sound a lot alike. And so that's interesting. And also, the white boy says, look, I hate the Masons. He said, but I want the love and I'm for the Constitution. Now listen to me now. This is a heavy piece now. This man is an intelligence man. Now, I got the Masons' book. They wrote the Constitution. One part of this book, he says, I give honor to the Constitution because some smart men, our founding fathers, split it up into 3 sections, legislative, executive, and judicial. And that was a very smart, profound thing. Well, when I go over to the whodunit book, when you look at the Mason book, that smart little idea is actually an idea from the guy who he say he hurt, he don't like. It said right in the book, it says, the significance of Freemasonry's influence on the Constitution cannot be overstated. Cannot be overstated. Now, this is written by the head potentate dude. Now, we got to get the source. That's Henry Clausen, whose brother was A.W. Clausen, who ran the Bank of America. Check. Yeah. Right, this is California. He was head of the California boys before he became head of the Nation boys of the Masons. So he still lives here now. See, it says here, his other positions, past Grand Master of Masons in California, Sovereign Grand Inspector General in California, Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council, 33rd degree Mother Supreme Council of the world. Check. Yeah. And his brother was head of the World Bank while he was head of World Mason. Check. Oh, okay. And they all live right here in California. Check. Okay, so we got good white source. Now let's go over here. I just got to keep repeating this. This is really overstatement. Freemasons conceived. Conceived. What do you mean you conceived it? The sperm meet the egg. What'd you do? Right. Now you can't be too far away when you do that, can you? How close you got to be? Real close. Okay. So there's no doubt about it. If you conceived it, couldn't nobody else have done it, right? Because it couldn't have been too many people that close all at once. Check? So there's no doubt about it. Who did it? Right. Freemasons conceived, argued. See, some of them got rejected. They didn't fertilize all of them. Some of them didn't make it. And ratified the immortal document, and ever since that historic convention in Independence Hall, Philadelphia, which is what Mark was talking about earlier, he was talking about the Philadelphia boys, Freemasons have given support to its preservation. One of the key issues of the Constitution was the creation of the Supreme Court of the United States as the final arbitrator. And it goes on to talk about that man, John Marshall. And it goes on to say that the Supreme Court set up the concept of judicial review and enforcement of the Constitution as the absolute law of the land. This was central to the Chief Justice. And then it talked about, over here, about how they split it up into 3 parts and how profound that was. As they went on to talk about all the Masons who was presidents. But the point is what I don't understand about what old boy is saying is that on one hand, he tells you don't get with the Masons, but on the other hand, he plays up Masonic things. And anybody know anything about how things go, no better than to be for the Constitution. Now, when I was talking to the guy in Atlanta, and I mentioned to him I was giving a lecture on Cooper's book, and the guy said, oh, Cooper was assassinated. I said, what? I didn't hear about Cooper being assassinated. He said, yeah, the word is in Atlanta that Cooper was assassinated. So I asked him to check with the brother who told him, because you know you got to get to who told you. Well, brother told me, will you call brother ass right now and call me back? Because I got to tell the people who are out here where Cooper lived, right? So he called me back. He called me back, and he tell me that he ain't dead, and he told me that there was a hotline number, and somebody named Stan Barrington, and this was the hotline number, this Cooper hotline number, 310-281-8222. And that this hotline number is where the information flow, and that somehow somebody was spreading this rumor to help activate their program. I didn't quite get it. I know that when somebody starts spreading the rumor that you dead, you ain't, you better grab your ass because you might be soon.
That's right.
Okay? And so somebody got to come up with some decision about how that worked. Now, but what I found about most definitely in the book again was the fact that you get things like, okay, first I want to tell you my values is that I believe in God. I believe it's the same God as my ancestors. Now, right there, you know we got a problem, right? That's the big old white guy with the blue eyes. And we know that ain't God.
That's right.
So when he stand up and say then I give my support to that guy. We know right away that we on the devil alliance, right? Because it stands in opposite. Check. So now we had to give some knowledge to that. Now there's some parts of the book that are good. There's some parts in the book that I'm gonna go through each chapter. I'm gonna rate them for you. There's some parts of the book I think are good. I think everybody should have access to every book that has any general level of information on these subjects, because you even have to give weight to deception. And so you have to have access to the information to give weight to it. He says, I believe in God and the God of my ancestors, and my ancestors came from England, Scotland, and Ireland.
Okay.
They fought on both sides of the Civil War. He's a regular white guy, because they usually on all sides of the same issue, because the issue ain't never the issue. Check. So he says white is Chinese, that he ain't a right-wing radical, a white racist, a communist party, nor an alcoholic. And that some of his friends would call him a liberal Democrat. And that he says a little Cherokee blood in his family, and that didn't nobody want to talk about it. He also mentioned something I thought was interesting. He says that his father was a U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel named Milton Cooper. And I thought what was interesting about that is that in the book by Steele, this guy who we debated on the radio in Washington, in the book by Steele opens up his book with a scenario from his father, who also is a retired lieutenant colonel. And I thought it was interesting that the books are on the scene basically sort of saying some of the same things, but they're sons of the military. And that means that those type of things, you know, when you're in the military and you're moving up security checks, you in effect have to put your butthole on record, your rectum, your colon, your stomach, the size of your esophagus, all that go in your security check.
That's right.
So if you're the son of someone in check, you checked. If you didn't check yourself on top of that check, you the double check. Ain't much about you that you don't offer up to them to be a part of what they're doing. Another part in here, he mentions that he signed certain secrecy agreements over some of the information that he had to read. And the question always becomes, do you still, somebody's tape went off, do you still abide by those secrets? Because anytime, we had a brother who just wrote a book on the CIA, he was on the radio in Washington, D.C., and I asked him, he said that he wanted to tell the people about some projects he worked on, but he couldn't tell because he still had some secrecy agreements. So I said, well, look, brother, man, if you coming out here to the black community telling us you coming back out here to help us, then you can prove your loyalty to us right now by telling us something that you say you can't tell us. Because this is how you have to prove your loyalty to us. Because as long as you upholding his security agreement, you are still protecting his security.
That's right.
Which means you are still him without pay. And you have to prove to us who you are. So it's a book, a brother got a book out, I forget what the name of it is, about the CIA. I did talk to the brother after the program. But he didn't want to tell about his book. Yeah, see, now, I put the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus shit on him because he was in the room. I stepped it up for him. Because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable because one of them show up. Surely we ain't got no security problem with one of him. Right? They got to do better than that.
That's right.
So if it'd be one of y'all, before it'd be one of them, they too obvious. Check. See, I wouldn't have never worked, would it? Right? Okay. But if it was in the bathroom, it'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? All right. To reinterpret these things. I need somebody's tape player to set up this guy. I want to hear you. They brought the boy Steele. This is the problem. This is what we have to do. They brought the boy Steele on the radio in Washington, D.C., and they played him up real big. Now, originally they wanted me to come on and debate the white boy, but somehow they decided not to call me. So the white boy came on without me. I just happened to be coming out of a restaurant and picked up the radio, picked up the white boy on the radio, and got right on him. Here he is over here trying to get away. So had to get right on him. And as you know, last time we were here, we played the Jesse Jackson stuff. And we keep catching people on the radio, getting to them to declare themselves in a way that will help us. Also, you all haven't heard the David Mills tape yet. with me and David Mills, the guy who... Okay, now what Steele says is interesting, is that he comes on the radio in Washington, and he makes a point of something that Cooper does too, I thought was interesting. He makes a dialogue, he's talking about the CFR, the Trilateral, the Bilderberger. And Steele does the same thing. I want to get this down because, and we need them marker things. What time is it? The kitchen closed already?
9:33.
The kitchen closed already? Oh, but I mean, I just want anybody here home? No, I just kidding. I need one of them right things. I just want to do it real quick. Yeah, he's the same one did Professor Griff 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. How you doing? You all right? Good, good. Okay, he does this thing. I thought this was interesting conclusion because we're so late in the game. He says, Cooper says, he says now, Rockefeller don't run nothing, here or abroad. I thought that was interesting. Okay, Rocky, nothing. I thought that was interesting. Then he'll talk about CFR. He talks about the Bilderberger. He talks about the Trilateral. And then he looks at it and he says, the big daddy, the most powerful of all the white groups is this one right here, the Bilderberger. That it was the Bilderberger's goal to come up with the New World Order. The only problem is that the Bilderberger didn't start until 52. 52. Now, you can't be running no New World Order and you wasn't around in 1800, 1700. This thing been going on since 1400. Okay? But now he calls out the Bilderberger as the most powerful. He says that the CFR started them off, turned it into the Bilderberger, and the Trilateral was just a little deception in the past. The problem is that each one of these represent a phase. They're not separate from the other. You had to be, you was a teenager before you was a young adult. You was an adult before you was a senior citizen. You can't separate the stages. These are progressive stages. You can't pull one out and say one is any better than the other without understanding. Which of your fingers is the most important? Well, you may say, well, the thumb may do more than the first finger. Yes, they may, but you can't separate. You don't want them to separate them, at least, I don't think. Anyway, so he says that this is nothing, this is everything, and this was nothing. The only problem is this was the link to the secret society, the Rhodes and the Rothschild. And you couldn't have any of these without this one. This one is still going on. He says, well, this one got tired, so then they start using this one. No, this one was the unity of the secret society. This one was the management of the New World Order in a three-sided way. This was a phase. The core group in 72, United States, Western Europe, and Japan, is the core group that's leading the world right now.
That's right.
This is the management group. This was the unity of Europe. The goal of the Bilderberger group in 52 was the 40-year goal of the unity of Europe in 92. Period. Period. And now that it has done that, and the first chairman of the Bilderberger group from America was David Rockefeller. The vice chairman was Dean Rusk, who was a Rhodes Scholar, Secretary of State under Kennedy, the man who took Carter to Rockefeller and put him on the Trilateral. He's from Atlanta, Georgia, too, Dean Rusk, who used to be chairman of the Rockefeller Foundation. So I thought that was confusing, and when Steele got on the radio, he made a point of telling the people in Washington that the Trilateral Commission was really nothing and that they would be foolish to spend any time studying it. So I call in and I say, well, how could you say it was irrelevant when it is compelling the unity of the Free Trade Agreement? It is the G7. It built the United Nations. I mean, I started going backwards with him and showing this web, and he said, well, on the radio, he said, well, obviously you know more about the Trilateral than I do. So I tell the audience, he said, what do you want me to do? Okay, I tell the people, you know more about that than me. I said, that's not the point. You must apologize to my people for telling them something which you claim now you knew not. So my question now is, why were you telling them since now you've admitted you didn't know?
Yeah.
That's when you get into, well, since you had no reason for saying it, who the fuck sent you? Yeah. Now that we done took your clothes off, What is you doing impersonating a man with them female genitals?
That's right.
Check. Now, how do you rightfully colonize? You taking shit from somebody else. That's what it means. Take something from someone else. Well, anyway. Yeah. So, this guy Cooper is strange. He got some strange stuff in here. Mentions that when he was a youth, he was in the Demo Lake. Said that helped him. He said if I hadn't belonged, he said when I was getting a job with Navy Intelligence, they asked him if he had ever belonged to any fraternal organization. He says, I looked down the list and circled the Demo Lake Society and answered in the affirmative. He says, I was assigned to Operation Status Report Office under Lieutenant Colonel Mercado while I awaited the results of my FBI background check for upgraded clearance. Then they gave him another security clearance, and he went to Sin Sea Pest Fleet. Looked like a Central Pacific Fleet in acronym, and he was on the briefing team there. And he knew about, he says one day on June, he says that one day, it says on that day, on the day I learned that the Office of Navy Intelligence had participated in the assassination of President John Kennedy, and that was the Secret Service agent driving the limo that shot Kennedy in the head, I went AWOL with no intention of ever returning. My good friend Bob Swain was the one who talked me into going back. Later on June 1st, 1972, the eve of my wedding, I told Bob everything I knew about the UFOs, Kennedy's assassination, the Navy, the secret government, the coming ice age. Little cave language. Alternatives 1, 2, and 3, Project Galileo, and the plan for New World Order. I believe that it was all true then, and I believe it's all true now. He says, I must warn you, however, that I have found evidence that the secret societies were planning as far back as 1917 to invent an artificial threat from outer space in order to bring humanity together into a one-world government. And like I said, it does not have to be that they're not extraterrestrials, but in the dialogue that he serves it up as. Just like I find again in his book, like I find in others, this overuse of the word Illuminati. I ask anyone to go out and bring me anything from an Illuminati, with an Illuminati thing on it. Because in formula, the Illuminati is at best a concept of a group of people. But if you were chasing it, you will never find it. You must put something more specific on the name to catch the people. And that's why we use Rhodes Rothschild and the Masons, the Skull and Bone. Be more specific about those groups and who they are.
That's right.
That's right, that's right. He says, I believe first in God, the same God in which my ancestors believed. I believe in Jesus Christ as he is my Savior. Second, I believe in the Constitution of the Republic of the United States of America. Now, that's some deep shit. Now, that put me in disagreements. It says, this is my creed. In formula, I disagree with creed number 1 and with creed number 2. Now, I still have to be mature enough to go through his information and extract what is good of it, and in consideration of my disagreement with his values, put in place those things I disagree with, but extract those of some value. He says, without the Constitution, without interpretation, as it was written and meant to work. I have given my sacred oath, quote, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's in quotation marks. So he is, to the death, a defender of the Constitution. And again, goals. Coakley's goal is a righteous revolution. The unifying document of the white race in America is the Constitution. For my righteous revolution to succeed, it must destroy the cornerstone of unity of the white race in America, the Constitution. He is a defender of the Constitution. At one point, under certain circumstances, we may stand in a roadblock with swords, knowing that we will have to kill him to get past. If you see it the way I see it. You may see it the way he see it. That be your business. You can be there with him. Anyway, third, he believes in the family unit. And he's sworn to give his life if required, in defense of God, the Constitution, and his family. And fourth, he believes that any man without principle that he is really ready and willing to die for at a given moment is already dead and is of no use or consequence whatsoever. If any man without principle that he is ready, I believe that any man without principle that he is ready and willing to die for at any given moment is already dead. Meaning that he believes in his God, his white Constitution, and his family. His wife is Chinese, so I can't say white. But that's him and his baby there. We put a little personal touch in there. That's him and his baby. It says, my goal is to translate, analyze with a critical, African-centric eye his information. I do not seek to discredit him personally. I can see he has enough problems with other whites, especially over the Kennedy thing. But this tape will help our people give accurate weight to his research, his real values and goals, to declare the real white boy hidden deep in his soul, to get a better grasp on possible real intentions based on looking under the sheets. So now, in his first chapter, he talks about himself. I'm going to go past himself because he one guy, he went in the army, got out, he got in the other service. He just went out of one, got in the other. There ain't many people that stupid. So he said that was before he got conscious, so I won't hold it too much against him. He has this early section of the book, Chapter 1, excerpts from Silent Wars for Quiet Wars, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, a copy furnished from Mr. Tom Young, a fellow warrior in the cause of freedom. You ever see where that white guy went, Marcus? Hey, Janie, what did he ask you? I know something because I seen the look on your eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what did he ask you?
Certainly it's not Queen of Sheba, is he?
Speaking of him or me?
No. That's what he asked, or that's what he said. About you.
And I'm not the Queen of Sheba. I don't get it. He really was saying, I guess I'm not wanted here, am I? Was that what he really was saying? Because I didn't get that far. Huh?
That's basically
But this was not a mild-mannered discussion.
Not for his kind.
All right.
Check.
Check. People are smoking. All right. He says that this copy is some from Tom Young. I will just tell you this about the first chapter. It's a hodgepodge of a lot of dialogue. Things he used from another guy, different parts he interjects his own feelings in. He says when a silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, the options, the mobility of individuals of a society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. He gives a dialogue that I think has some value, especially later on in this particular chapter, of different things that could go into a model that would analyze what you do. He's still out there?
law, man.
Huh?
That's the law.
He the police? What?
Damn.
We must be doing something.
Revolution is on.
What did he do? Get in the police car? What did he get in?
They got five cars down on Jefferson, right over here by Union Bank.
We're doing something
He
right.
got out.
Keep
I
on
followed
working.
him down the street. Talked to his sister, his informant, slipped her something, and hopped in the car.
That's when he disappeared right by the bus, by the bus stop. He
We're
disappeared
doing
into a
something right.
corner.
Let's carry on with
And
the
then
work.
came
Don't
right
worry
across.
about it.
Hold on, now let me hear from the soldiers because we better follow him out. So everybody did what they're supposed to do, Jack.
Check.
Right? All right. All happened very quietly. So what happened now? What happened now? They went on where?
Okay, he disappeared right before we get to the bus stop at Jefferson. He walked into a little doorway, and I saw two people walk out, and I wasn't sure if it was him. And he disappeared. It looked like going to the bus stop, and I saw him walk across the street, across Jefferson.
Okay. All right. Give a call at the home base. Make sure everything all right. Would you do that for me? Jenny, would you let him use the phone? All right. Okay. Now, so we be conscious of them. Jack.
Check.
Yeah.
All right. Who anybody got a camera here?
Yeah.
Did you get him on the camera?
No, I didn't.
I got
Now
two.
come on now. Anytime they come in, I should have said, just give him a twist. Anyway, give him a twist. Right, give him a twist. All right. You can keep on with me. But we just be up on them, right? Anybody by the door, watch the window. I know brother there, he good brother, he take care of him. Okay, all right.